Hey, everybody. Welcome to The Climb. I'm your host, Adrian Branch, a former NBA world champion and ESPN analyst. And this show is all about overcomers, how they overcome in their mindsets to turn setbacks to success and overcoming potholes and obstacles. Because if you think about it, we all will face mountains in our life sometimes. That's why we call ourselves overcomers and climbers. We call ourselves climbers because we want you to keep climbing. So come join us and leave the outside noise with real conversations and real people about real life. It is going to be wonderful. Now imagine this. Imagine you're told by your mentor and family member that the key to life is having the most toys, the biggest house, the biggest car, the biggest bank account. And at 32, you accomplish that. But then you look around and say, what am I doing? Where is my purpose? Well, this guy that you're going to hear today has an amazing story of overcoming purposelessness and really a purpose-driven life on what he's doing. Today's guest is Jesse Heisler. He's a Southern California native. He's a successful businessman. He's a mentor to the inmates that are in the California penal system, and he is living his absolute best life. And I can't wait to introduce you to him. Jesse, welcome to the show, sir. Man, finally got you on here, and I'm going to celebrate you right off the bat because you were so humble. You said, what am I going to say? What is my story going to make a difference with anyone? Jesse, your story is not only good, in my opinion, it's a bestseller. So let's jump right into it. First 9 years, tell us about growing up in the Southern California area near San Bernardino before you literally, at 10, went to the big house and started getting experience.
Yep, life was good. Had both my parents. They divorced young, but they were always there, supported me, encouraged me, and had a good set of grandparents that prayed for me and kept me in line, kept me on the straight and narrow growing up.
Now, it was interesting because at 10 years old, something happened to you that really, quite frankly, has impacted you for the rest of your life. Tell us what was happening at 10 years old, visiting the big house.
Yeah, my mother was a criminal defense. She helped attorneys, and she worked with people that were sentenced in normally federal prison, and she helped them reduce their sentence. And one of the people that she helped, she fell in love with, and at 9 or 10, they committed they were in a committed relationship, and I started visiting my then new stepdad in federal prison, and he was quite the influence in my life. He had a big impact.
Now, at 9 or 10 years old, were you intimidated by the barbed wires, or were you too young to know this was a different atmosphere?
Yeah, I just thought it was normal because my mother had been working in this field, and it was all I knew. She all growing up, she had been involved with the justice system, and it was not a surprise to me. I guess it was just a part of life.
Now, I'm going to hold right there because we're going to come back, and that played a big role in your life, as you said. Now, at 14, you were playing football, but you said you got tired of getting hit, and you took up a new sport and was pretty good at it.
Yeah, I played about 5 or so years in Pop Warner and high school football, and I did it because my dad did it, and he played a lot of football growing up, some semi pro ball, and I was always hurt. I was the one that just was unafraid and would be as aggressive as I needed to be, but it didn't turn out for the long run to keep me in the game. So I was always hurt, always on the bench. And my dad introduced me to golf. And once I I didn't make the freshman team, didn't make the cut, but sophomore year came back and made the team. after spending time at the country club after school, it took it it took all my attention away from football, and that was it for football.
And it was fascinating that you were saying from 14 to 18, you were really successful. You wanted to go to UNLV and you had big dreams. I mean, big dreams. You wanted the big time, big buffet, big casinos, and big golf. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, it was big everything, and that was early 2000s. I turned down a golf opportunity at a smaller division school, and I said I'm gonna try to make it at the big D1 school. And it was a great opportunity to see some awesome golf. There was amazing golfers there that went professional, and I could tell pretty quick that the athlete they when they hit the ball, it made a different sound, and it went a lot further.
So then 6 years at UNLV, and then life was changing again. I think this was amazing. You're walking across campus and you're one signature away from going into the United States Armed Services to fly helicopters. What happened at a college seminar?
Yeah, I had about 4 years into school, and I had enough. I had terrible grades. I was taking classes over and over again because I couldn't quite get the grades I needed, and I was just done. I didn't see a future at school because I wasn't interested, and I I visited the U.S. Army recruiting office several times. I was ready to go in. I wanted to go in as a warrant officer to fly helicopters, and I thought that'd be really fun and really adventurous. And on my finals week, I was walking through the rotundum there at UNLV, and this HR recruiter was uh, at a job fair there, and he said, "Hey, young man, you ever think of working at Pepsi?" And I thought, no, said, "No, no, not at all. Never thought about it. Quite frankly, I never wanted to." But I started talking to him. He was a nice gentleman, and by the end of that conversation, I had decided I'm going to do a an internship with Pepsi, and he took care of the college from there on out, and was able to learn the business and get started in sales and learn what business was really like, not just out of the school textbooks.
So you found out you were a successful person in business and you were salesperson of the month. So good that in those early years, they said, Jesse, we're giving you the car keys. You can do anything you want in the company. How were you so effective? How did you hit your niche as a salesperson?
Yeah, uh, I had a I wasn't always um, the top guy. The first couple years I kind of just did what I needed to do to get the paycheck, but I had a boss that really challenged me. He said, if this was the type of guy I was going to get, I wouldn't have given you the opportunity." And that really hit home. I wanted to prove that I was worthy of the job that he had given me, and I wanted to. He basically said, if there's going to be a winner, it might as well be you. And he really encouraged me, and I decided that I wanted to be the best that I could be the best salesman there was, and was able to win quite a few sales rep of the periods, or sales rep the months, and sales competitions. And it was a work ethic that he instilled just by challenging me, just by encouraging me, by saying the wrong, he could have said the wrong words and discouraged me, but he selected some really good words to bring the best out of me.
Yeah, your mentor, Rich, and you said that you were the first one in, last one to leave. So let me be curious, like I've never heard a standard of excellence. What did you mean by that? First one in, last one out.
Yeah, I was the first one to clock in, and the last one to clock out, and I wanted to make sure that no matter who stepped in and was looking at my job, at my work quality, no matter what time of day it was, I wanted to be top notch. If Rich, my boss, was going to walk through and take a look at what I'd done for the day, and no matter what time it was, I wanted to make sure that that things were looking good. And my stepdad said, shape up or ship out. It's an old Navy term, I guess, and I wanted to shape up because if not, I was gonna get shipped out.
You're on the roll. You're rolling. Your life is fascinating. 10 years old, you're visiting the prison system to visit your stepdad. Your mom is a compassionate heart with the influence that we'll hear within your story, helping inmates reduce their time. You're going along. Your stepdad is a savant, a business genius. And then all of a sudden, something happens at 24. You go into comedy. Tell us what happened. Now, that's funny. You told a bad joke that wasn't funny. When I'm hearing that, that's funny. Tell me what happened.
Yeah, in Vegas, I thought I might be an entertainer, so I had a one hit wonder, and one show, one night, said the wrong thing to the wrong person on the clock with my Pepsi shirt on, and this person did not think it was funny. He did not think I was a comedian, uh, and he got pretty offended. And everyone at Pepsi HQ, these people that were telling me you could do anything you want at this company, quickly found out that uh, even though I had work ethic, I wasn't the most professional on the job, and that changed their perspective and view on me pretty quickly.
Yes, so you actually stepped down, and looking back, you said you got to be a professional in the big picture. So then you went to your dad, you went to your stepdad. Tell us what happened with that. And for 9 years running, you were on the road. But what happened when you went to your stepdad?
Yeah, I went to my stepdad and said, my life here at Pepsi is over. Every moment that I spent here, all the hard work, the years at that point I put in had come to a close because I had really stained my my character there, and everyone knew it. It wasn't like it was going to be swept under the rug. Everybody heard it. So everyone knew what I was saying and really what kind of person I was when no one was listening and watching. So it was a wake up call, and I remember calling my stepdad and saying, "It's over, man. It's over." And he was very calm and patient. He was like, "Jesse, it's okay. Everything's gonna work out." And at that point, I could not see past the moment, but he was just that still an encouraging voice that said, "It's gonna be okay."
Your stepdad, Brett, talk about him for a second because you just mentioned character, and then eventually you said you got to have character and not be a character. But you said he was an absolute stud, a highly intelligent man, good with products, good with people. Who was this guy, Brett, in your life?
Yeah, Brett came into my life when I was about 9, and he was one of my mother's clients, and he was sentenced to a pretty long prison term in federal prison, and he came in, and he was just even though he had this long prison term, he was always a great encouraging influential person in my life, and he really was an amazing athlete. Skied at UC Irvine. He was an amazing student, and he went to UCI, and then they shipped him off to Harvard, and he spent time there, studied there, and he was just
A
he was
chemist. He was a chemist.
yeah, he studied chemistry at UCI and Harvard, but he was also just a business savant. He sales and marketing, accounting, finance. He could speak to everyone in the building at the level that they had. graduated from, and he could just he could wrap it all into one conversation.
Then life is moving. You're around 25, 26. You're sitting there with your stepdad, and something along the lines of the Wolf of Wall Street, that movie's on. And he said, I want to be like that. What happened with that in that toxic culture?
Yeah, so my stepdad Brett, he said, you can come work for the family company after my Pepsi career had ended. And he opened the door. He was very careful that people didn't look at it as nepotism, but he gave me an opportunity at the bottom of the business. It was just customer service, and it was taking care of the customers, and that's where he put me, which really was helpful in the long term, because I learned from the very bottom what the company was about, the technology. I learned the customer needs, the customer pain points. Yeah, learning all this stuff, you don't know that you're going to use it later on. You're just like, okay, I'm at the bottom. I'd like to, work my way up. But it was a great place to start. And we were spending some time together, and for whatever reason, we watched Wolf of Wall Street. And that movie, I don't recommend watching it, but for a reference point, it's a pretty graphic movie. And at the end there, he said, "I want to model my company after this movie."
Whoa. Wow.
And, uh, it's a rated R movie. It's not for kids, and it's really not a movie that you want to model your business after. But at the time, I was thinking, "That's cool. This is great. Party time."
And so that's what was happening, very toxic. You had a lot of HR complaints with harassment. And then at 32, you're about 9 years in the company, and you've reached the dream that Brett had set. Jesse, the person with the most toys wins. You say you have the big car, the big house, big finances, big success. And then, Jesse, I looked up this word, purposelessness. Tell us about that, where you said it was purposelessness.
Yeah, I worked my way up from customer service role in the company, and got a sales position. Put my time in, and learning from my stepdad. Really learned how to sales, and had some really good successful years. Sold a lot of our technology, and it became a game. It became almost second nature. It was really fun. And my stepdad was an amazing salesperson. And at 32, I had accomplished what I was taught. What my stepdad said I needed to accomplish. The more toys, and the big house and the car, the truck, the income, and that was it. That was all the boxes that needed to be checked. And to me, I had it, all that I had thought, all that I thought I needed, all I thought I wanted. And I was sitting there in the big house all by myself, and checked all the boxes. And I was sitting there thinking, I got everything I thought I needed, everything I thought I wanted. And that there was really there was there I had everything, but I had nothing. And the word that was highlighted in my mind was purpose. I didn't have any purpose. I was purposelessness. And that was my state of being, because after accomplishing what I thought I needed, there was no more purpose. That was it. And so I remembered a book, and I didn't know who wrote it. I didn't know what it was about, but I remembered a book that was titled Purpose Driven Life. And it was a book that that was going to change my life. And I downloaded it on the Audible, listened to it about an hour in. The Rick Warren wrote it, and he reads it, and he gets very passionate and emotional. And I could tell that he was a believer in what he was selling. I was trying to learn about sales and learn from people, listen to books, read books, and you could tell a salesman is either believes in what he has or is just doing it for the paycheck. And I could tell Rick believed what he was selling. And about halfway through that book, I made my decision that this is what my purpose was. I needed to return back to my creator, and that was what I was missing in my life.
And you say you met God in a supernatural way, and you believed in the virgin birth, you believed in salvation. How did you go from the paradigm of getting from self-serving to wanting to serve others?
Yeah, yeah, that was it. It was um it was it. I After I get finished reading that book, I decided I'm coming back to my creator. I'm coming back to God. I'm repenting. This is what I've been missing. That this is my purpose. And I had an issue. I believed in God. I believed He created the heavens and the earth, but I had an issue with Him coming as a person, as a human. And I thought God doesn't exist as a man. That's not possible. I had a real issue with that, and I couldn't wrap my head around it. And as we know, it's not a mental thing. It's a supernatural, it's a spiritual thing. And so I became almost a doubter, and even though I wanted to believe, I doubted. And I thought I'm gonna just read. I want to read the Bible now. I want to learn what this new thing is that I'm believing in. And I would say maybe a gospel or two in, I knew for sure that this Jesus who they spoke about, who claimed to be God in the flesh, Emmanuel, God with us, I knew it. It took me a gospel or two, but I knew it at that moment. And I've felt, I don't know if it was maybe in John, reading through John, I had this supernatural moment where I felt like Jesus came and visited me in my room, and I felt the love of God. It was the only way I remember it and explain it is it's as if the heat from the sun, that intense, just overwhelming love, it just it's that big. Like the heat or the light from the sun. That's the love of God.
Well, how do you now jive the two environments? Because now you've changed inwardly, but your environment didn't. So how long did you stay at the family business? And then how did you transition to encouraging hurting hearts?
Yeah, yeah, that was an interesting phase of life because um I had gotten into the culture of the Wolf of Wall Street culture, and our employees, our leadership, our executive team, we were all in that culture, and we were doing life. And I you there was conviction for me. I had God enter in my life. I had the Spirit of God fill me up, and I had conviction for the first time. And the things that I was doing, I couldn't do it no more. And I remember visiting my stepdad, and early Sunday morning, I had to get up and I went to church, and I wasn't the same Jesse. And I remember coming back, Sunday afternoon, and he's like, "Where have you been? You've been at church?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've been at church. I've been at church this morning." And it was separation. It's as I look back, naturally speaking, it's almost impossible to separate from the world when you're that intrigued by it, when you are wrapped around it, when it's wrapped around you. It's a stronghold, but only by the grace of God are we able to separate and follow the conviction of the Spirit of God that indwells in us.
Now, your mom's influence really came to life because you went from not having a purpose to now being intentional about changing your environment and running towards healthy patterns and healthy behaviors and trying to help people. How did you get to being able to what you're doing now, teaching inmates and going in where people aren't built for this, but you're coming in to serve? How did that materialize?
Yes, I can look back and see as a 10-year-old going into the federal prison system, visiting my stepdad, not knowing, I'm just visiting, family member, not knowing that was a process that God was taking me through, that He was planting seeds all the way back to show me that, these guys have made some bad decisions, but they're just as worth be able to have the opportunity to repent and come back and be accepted by God. He loves all of us the same, whether we've committed multiple crimes or haven't. But we're all guilty anyways, and his love until we've made the decision to follow Christ. So it was a seed planted all the way back then, and now 30 years later, it's harvest time, and I'm able to go back and be very comfortable with these guys because I know that they've made some bad decisions, but they're only one decision away from salvation, from healing, from deliverance, from having a relationship with God, from being our brothers and sisters in Christ.
Now, you're rolling where you found your pocket, you found your niche to serve people, to serve the brokenhearted, to serve what society would cast off. But then also, you've been a successful private equity professional in the business world. How is that jived? And what has been happening now? Because you're on the cutting edge of some amazing things.
Yes, I ended up leaving our family company, and I was very comfortable there. Um, I knew what I was doing. I was paying able to pay the bills, but I knew God was telling me in order to open a new door, I had to close that door. So I quit the family company. I was really the last of the first gen. I was the last of the first generation people to be there. The family had left. The family sold it, and it was new ownership, and so I knew I had to leave. God was telling me to leave, so I quit without having a job opportunity. But within a week or two, I was interviewing and I was taking steps to now. I'm in an amazing job. It's a dream come true. I'm working for amazing Christian businessmen who just have the favor of God on their lives. They have been introduced to amazing scientists and technologists that we believe are going to change the world for the good.
And then you have effectively used LinkedIn. A lot of people do a whole bunch of things, but tell us how effective that business, that's been a new golf course for you. You're golfing here. I guarantee you're a much better golfer than I am, Jesse. So if you didn't make it at UNLV, you're much better than I am because I got no chance. But that's the new golf course. How have you effectively used LinkedIn?
Yeah, I at first I didn't really like social media at all. I didn't think there was I didn't think there was anything in there for me. But when I got into finance, I um, I found out how powerful of a tool it is, and I connected with somebody who kind of liked my background, who then introduced me to these Christian founders who had started this private equity in Texas and Dallas, and I, through LinkedIn, he invited me out to meet the guys, and I met these two Christian businessmen that just completely changed my perspective on how kingdom minded people can be successful in God's eyes and in man's eyes. And it really changed my life. It was the book of Acts in person.
You're committed. So when you were with the underground being a knucklehead, you were fully committed. Like you said at 18, big time, big life, big golf, you want big success. And now you're fully committed now to doing what's right because it's right. Let me ask a question before we go to our speed round. What would over 41-year-old Jesse say to 21-year-old Jesse?
Yeah, I would say repent and be baptized. And I would say do it now. Don't wait. But I know it'd be extremely hard. There I can think back. There was people back then that were evangelizing me, but it's hard when the strongholds got you. But I would just beg myself to repent and get out of the world system, return to God. He's the only way.
And then also the part you said, just because you're gifted and talented, stay humble. So let me be curious. What do you mean by staying humble with your talents?
Yeah, we all have different talents. Obviously, have an amazing athletic talent. I found that I had some sales talent, just relational wise. Um, I liked I like learning about people's needs and wants. Which is sales, relational sales. And even though you could be the if you if you're not a professional, um, if you're not servant minded, then no one's going to want to work with you. Well, it doesn't matter what the field is. If you don't treat people as you want to be treated, and you don't have a mind of humility, then no one cares how talented you are. You're not going to be welcome for too long.
Nice, nice. Well, this is our speed round. So, as a former basketball player, shot clock. So, we're going to see how many questions you can answer within our little speed round. So, I'm going to ask you a question and I want you to answer the first thing that comes to your mind, okay?
Go.
All right.
Mhm.
Purpose,
Fulfilling God's will in your life,
success,
accomplishing God's will in your life.
family,
Um, well, as believers, we're all family.
nice, mercy,
Not getting what you deserve.
the future.
Heaven, it's bright.
Now, love to ask this one. Before we let you go, how can you encourage our listeners to keep climbing?
Yeah. Uh, Three things Oral Roberts said. Oral Roberts was a healing evangelist in the 50s, 60s, 70s, completely changed the spiritual environment of this country. He said, first, find out the will of God for your life. Second, consult no longer with man. So once you know what God wants you to do, don't talk to people about it. And third is get the job done, whatever it takes.
Nice, nice. Well, Jesse, you've said a lot. You've encouraged somebody today because they deal with dysfunction. They deal with the penal system and they deal with asking that question, does my life really matter? So you've encouraged someone today. How can someone find you at LinkedIn or if they want to do some business with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, Jesse Heisler on LinkedIn. You're not going to find me on the other social medias, but you can message me there.
Jesse Heisler on LinkedIn. Jesse, you're my buddy. Great job. Thanks for hanging with us today.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. That's Jesse Heisler. What a fascinating story. Are you kidding me? Had the world by the tail at 32, didn't mean a lot to him. And he turned his life around and he's living a life that matters. And so we are so excited. Now, listen, if you want to follow us, head on over to Adrian Branch Speaks on social media. Download The Climb wherever podcasts are available. And I want you to remember this, my climbers, take it from what Jesse said. Be encouraged and keep climbing. We'll see you next time, everybody. Hey climbers, did you enjoy the show today but want to learn more on how to climb in your career and personal life? Go to adrianbranchspeaks.com and check out our workshops for more detail. Taken from over 40 years of my professional experience, these workshops have helped countless people develop champion mindsets to thrive. So sign up today